Welcome to another edition of Listening to the Instructor, but this time I want to play a little different, and I needed to update my title to spring because I did make some changes. Just wanted to let you know that I'm going to provide this PowerPoint on within the module, but I wanted to go over just a few things. One is talking about close reading. This week and several of the weeks to follow, you're going to be required to read and text code your comprehension strategies. And so I need you to understand what is the purpose of close reading. Like, we're not just text coding to text code. This goes back to the essential questions. What do good readers do to help them comprehend the text? And one thing is they text code. I've provided a really cool video for you, and this is a 4-3-2-1 discussion. Try it out on your own. So let's look at creating a close reading. You want to use very short passages to dig really deep into the text. This requires rereading. We read with a pencil. We usually have text-dependent questions. We give students a chance to struggle. So take a look at this speech by JFK at Rice University and conduct your own close reading. Try it out on yourselves. Close reading is a strategy that teachers commonly use and is a very effective best practice within the classroom. Let's move on to text-dependent questions. These are the types of questions you want to design throughout your lesson plans. You want students to have to reread closely to go through the text based on text-dependent questions. Here's a connection with our Common Core literacy, talking about the increase in complexity and rigor within our literacy. When you have that increase, you should have text-dependent questions. You don't normally see students having to make connections between themselves and the world around them. It's all text-dependent. So let's look at the anchor standards. 1, read closely. Logical inferences. Cite specific textual evidence. So if there's a questions that cannot be tied back to the text, then they're not text-dependent. Students are supposed to be able to answer those text-dependent questions. That requires them to not only read the text, but read the text carefully and repeatedly. You don't see a lot of questions that are based on prior knowledge or personal experiences. Take a moment to review, what does this look like in the classroom? So let's take a look at Charlotte's Web. If I had to, as a class, students had to create a character chart. From the story, students write the characters' names, add an illustration of each character, and list several character traits that describe each character. Okay? What are your thoughts about this? Can we make this text-dependent? It's not very text-dependent, it's just a task. So, text-dependent questions can only be answered with evidence from the text. They have to be literal. Therefore, you can check for understanding, but they also involve analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. You want to focus on a specific word or sentence or paragraph and how those words, sentences, or paragraphs connect to large ideas or themes or events. You want to focus on the difficult parts of the text in order to enhance reading proficiency And you want to also include prompts for writing and discussion questions. Here are 4 steps for creating text-dependent questions. You want to find it, look closer, prove it, take it apart. Those are the 4 steps. So in find it, most literal requires reader to find explicitly stated facts and details in the text. Look at the question stems. What is, where is, who is. The look closer asks you to compare and contrast, explain, summarize. What are the facts or ideas shows? Rephrase the meaning. They're literal, but require more than a one put your finger on it. It's a search across the text in more than one place. Prove it. Standard 1, which is a hard standard for students to understand, they can cite text evidence, but they can't make inferences. So their inferences and text evidence never match, which is baffling. And so I rely on my strategies to really help the students meet that literacy skill of inferencing. And so they have to identify the main idea, draw conclusions, make predictions, but all of this has to be based on what evidence from the text made you do this. So you can't just take an off-the-wall prediction and put it in there and say it's right. Oh, it's asking me a prediction, so that's my opinion. No. What is the theme? What is the central idea? Take it apart. This is where you analyze the text structure and how it's organized. For example, this first paragraph is important because what does the author use a chart or illustration for? Give an example from the text of where the author uses description to tell. Here are some examples. And I do think there is an error here in editing, so I'm sorry if there is. I thought I corrected it. Look at the examples. So that is direction based. This is more text dependent question. More of direction based. Look at the question. Still a question, but it's based on, can you just provide evidence for it? But look at this one. Text dependent. So going back to our example of Charlotte's Web, we can definitely make this more text dependent. Look at the questions. Same directions. Write the character's name, add an illustration, list the traits to describe each character. Now look. Character, trait, evidence from the text, then your questions. Taking out that illustration. Then you have you creating, I want you to start creating your own text-dependent questions. You can go back to the speech that we had and try that out on your own. Of course, that speech is a great tool to use in your classroom if you want to do some space exploration or moon type of text set. Try out Buehl's self-questioning strategy on Moonshot. Look at the basic steps and look at how to develop the different levels of self-questioning. I hope you enjoyed this session and stay tuned for more. Thanks.